In this video, I'm giving you my top 10 tips for starting a brand new song here in GarageBand on your iPhone or your iPad. So let's go. Hi, my name is Pete and welcome to Studio Live today. In this one, I'll be showing you the steps that I take when I'm setting up a brand new project here in GarageBand. So if you're new to GarageBand, this could really help you out. And if you're an experienced GarageBand creator, well, stick around. You may just find that one or two bits of information that really help you with your projects. Let's jump right in with tip number one, and this is the location where you save your GarageBand project. So when you open GarageBand, you'll notice you've got locations down the left-hand side here. You can save it on my iPad or on my iPhone. My recommendation, and what I generally do, is use iCloud Drive. This way, it will back up your project automatically, and you'll be able to use it on multiple devices. So if you've got an iPad and an iPhone, you can access your project from both. So with iCloud Drive selected, I'm going to tap on GarageBand for iOS and tap on Create Song, and now we're ready to get started. Tip number two is about saving and naming your project. So what I'll generally do is jump in and just grab the drums here and hit record, and just record in any old thing, just so that I've got something. The reason I do this is what I can then do is go back out here in the top left and it will save this project. And if you've ever used GarageBand, you know that my song is its default name. But what I'm going to do is name my project by tapping right on the name there, deleting that out, and naming my track and project ready to use in the future. So there you go, I've named this project Spy from a Distance, the name of the song, and then there you go. Now when I go back into the project, it is saved in what I've already recorded, and every time I tap the file icon there to go back out, it will save and update and upload those changes to iCloud Drive, so I know that I'm not going to lose any of that hard work. Tip number three, I like to set the tempo of my project. So first of all, I'm just going to delete out this bit of drum here. And then up in the top right, I'm going to tap on the settings icon and tap on tempo. Now, the way I approach tempo is I kind of hum along to the song and figure out what sort of tempo I want. And then I'm going to tap on here. So this one's going to be around about this sort of tempo. And it's going to end up being around about 116 BPM. So that's what we're going to go with. We can adjust this later, but it's important to dial it in at the start and get it as close as possible before you start recording too many of your sounds. Tip number four is our key signature. Now, if you're new to music and this doesn't mean much to you, don't worry too much. But if you have written some of the song that you're going to be recording in GarageBand and you know what key it's in, come up to your settings icon here and tap on the key signature. Now, the song that I'm creating, I happen to know is in the key of A minor. So I'm going to tap on A, tap on minor, have follow song key on here, which means that if I do want to change this key in the future, it will move those around and all the virtual instruments will follow the song key. Not anything I record from the microphone, but any of my virtual instruments. So that's set now. I can tap settings and then tap out of there because I've now got a 116 BPM, my time signature at 4/4 time. And if you do have a different time signature, you can adjust that there. And then my key signature of A minor, my project settings are now ready to go. Tip number five is about song sections. So there's a couple of ways to approach this and I'll let you know both. So to access our sections, it's not very intuitive, but we tap on this little plus button in the top right and here you go, our song sections. At the moment, it's 1 bar or automatic. That's not going to do us much good. So I'm going to tap on that one. I'm going to turn off automatic and I'm actually going to make this section length 4 bars. Now I always give myself a 4 bar lead in as section A. This just gives you 4 bars at the start of your song before you record anything at all. I then want to add my next section. So I'm going to tap add and it's going to by default add an 8 bar section here. But I actually want this to only be 4 bars for my intro of my song. So I'm going to tap the I and then I'm going to drop this down from 8 down to 4 and tap on back. And there you go. You can see up the top here, I've now got 4 bars and 4 bars, my lead in and then my intro. Now it's time to put my verse in. So my first verse, I happen to know, is 20 bars, at least at this stage of the songwriting process. So I'm going to tap add, and this time tap on the I there, and I'm going to tap and drag on up to bring it up to 20 bars there. So there you go. I've set up my lead in section A, my intro section B, and then my verse section C. Now the other way to do this is to just make one section, section A, and tap on the I here and just make this as many as you think you're going to use. and just create that way. That's totally fine. It just means you don't have the flexibility later on that you do if you set your sections at the start. But don't be afraid to just experiment and find out what works for you. So what I'm going to do is put together the rest of the sections here for the first part of this song that I know I'm going to record, that I've already written or that I've got in my head, and then we'll return and get started with the recording process. Tip number 6 is to record an outline of your song so far, at least what's in your head or what you've written already. So to do this, we're going to tap all sections, which you can see highlights all the sections out here, and then just tap on out. And you can see now at the top here, we've got section A, B, C, and D. So at this point, I've got a 4-bar intro here. I've then got 20 bars for my first verse, and here's my chorus. I've got 16 bars for my chorus. So I'm ready to actually record an outline of this. And because the main instrument for this one is going to be a guitar, I'm going to use the guitar virtual instrument in GarageBand to record this. So what I'm going to do is tap on the track view in the top left here to come back to my track view, and then I'm going to press the plus button down in the bottom left here to add a new track and scroll on across until I find the guitar instrument. Here it is. I'm going to tap more sounds because I'm going to use this one, the classic clean guitar here. We'll tap on that one, and if we strum a chord here now, there is our guitar sound. Now, I've got a bunch of other videos that will help you with all of that setup process and how to use all of these instruments in more detail. So check the description if you want to learn a whole lot more. This one's going to be a bit of a quick guide to getting started. So we've got all of the different chords that we can use here, and this is why I said set up your key signature before. Because this is in A minor, you can see here we've got A minor, D minor, E minor, we've got E, B, D, C, and F. We've got all of the chords that we think we're going to need to use for this particular song. We do, however, have one chord that's not represented here that I know I want to use, which is an E7. So I'm going to show you quickly how we can edit or change the chords that we have here in the guitar. So let's go to the settings icon in the top right corner and tap on this button, Edit Chords, and this brings us into our chord editor. Now the one chord I know I'm definitely not going to be using is this one, the B diminished. So if I tap on that one, it's going to play it. Yeah, that chord's not required in this particular song. But what I do need is an E7. So I'm just going to drag this up until we get to the E. Oop, too far, Pete. Till we get to the E, and then make it a major, and then make it a 7th with nothing on the bass. And there you go. You can see it's now changed it to that E7 chord, which I do want to use as part of this track. So I'm going to tap done. I'm now ready to go. So what I'm going to do is hit the record button here and play along. So I'm actually going to use my finger to strum the chords here. So you can just tap here, and or you can tap at the very top to just play the chord, but I'm going to play in a little bit of a riff, just again using my finger on the touch screen here, that is going to be representative of what I want in my final track. So let's hit record and get that done now. So there you go. Yes, it did take me a few tries, which you didn't have to sit through, but I now have a scratch track of all of the different chords that I can build the rest of my song around. Now, the one final thing that I do need to add here is at the very start, in the intro, there is a lead guitar part. So I need to play that in. And what I need to do is over here where it says chords, I need to tap on notes like that. And now I can actually play the actual notes by tapping here. Now, if you don't know how to play a guitar, that's cool. You can stick with the chords. You can use the keyboard as your bass instrument. We'll be showing you that in a moment. But this is how we can actually dial in. So now let's just record this little lead part, and then we'll have our complete intro, verse, and chorus done and ready to go. Okay, that's about right. That's where we want to be. Now, as I was playing that, I realized something, and that is that I think it's a little bit slow, and this is where the tempo can be so cool. While we have virtual instruments and we're constructing our track, we can once again tap on the settings icon in the top there, and we can go to tempo here, like so, and we can actually change this. So say I wanted this to go up to maybe 120, we can actually increase the tempo, and then when we play back our guitar, like so, it's going to be that little bit faster because we've actually changed the tempo. So before we've recorded any real instruments, while we're using virtual instruments, that's a good thing to do. So we're ready to go here. Let's move on to the next step. The next thing I tend to do is get a drum beat down because that can help you record the rest of your instruments and get the vibe of the track going on. Now, what I'll do is we'll tap and we'll delete this drum track I've created at the start, and we'll hit the plus button just so we can do this, and I'll show you it from scratch. So let's scroll on across until we find the drums. I'm going to tap more sounds, and I want to find a kit that I think will work for this one. So maybe something like the Sunset from the Songwriter Drummers kit. We'll use this one. That's sounding okay. We'll go with that for now. Now, the one thing that I do when I'm doing a drum beat just using the drums like this is go in here to my settings. So we'll tap on this one at the top here. We'll then come into the track settings like this and go into velocity sensitivity. Now, at medium, you can get some variation, but it can also be hard when you miss a hit and it will sound bad. So when I'm doing drums for this purpose, I actually turn the velocity sensitivity off, so that every drum I hit has the same velocity. It just makes it easier to create a beat. And remember, this is really just to replace our metronome so that we have a beat that is kind of aligned with the song to help us get into the groove early on. So that is set there now. We'll come back to our track settings by tapping in the top there. And now we can actually turn that one off there and we can start recording in our drum beat. So we use the same process here. I'm actually going to record it from the start here, and we're just going to hit record and record in the drum beat by tapping on the drums in time with the metronome and get our drum beat down. All right, I'm trying to record the drums here, but I'm having some issues because of the balance of the volume. So what I'm going to do is come back here. I'm going to drag out by clicking and dragging, or tapping and dragging out there. I'm going to turn the guitar down a bit and bring my drums up in volume, leaving the metronome on. This will help me stay on the beat and on the grid a lot better and get a better drum performance. Let's try again. Now, what you probably heard there was there's a few timing issues here between the guitar and the drums and the metronome. So what we're going to do here is make sure that this drum beat is going to be as close as possible to the metronome as possible. The guitar, we know we probably didn't play too well. So let's jump in and do a quick bit of quantization to just get this aligned a little better on the grid. We'll show you how to do that now. So firstly, let's take a look at our drums. We're going to tap on the mixer icon up the top here. We're going to go to track settings. We're going to go to quantization. At the moment, it's got a straight quantization on, but this has got a bit of a swing beat to it. So I'm actually going to use swing, and I'm going to use the light 1/16 swing to put on there. So let's take a listen to if this brings these drums onto the grid and aligns with our metronome. We'll hit play. Yeah, that's cool. And if we were finding that it wasn't on the grid, we can try the other ones. We can put heavy swing on there, or we can make it 1/8 note quantization. I cover quantization in a heap more detail in other videos linked down in the description. Let's do the same with the guitar. Again, we'll put our swing quantization. We'll do this 1/16 swing. And now if we play these two along with each other, hopefully this will put them in a little better time. Let's try. And because of the nature of the guitar, we may even need to try and play around with this a little bit. What if we try like a 1/8 note heavy here? Yeah, you can hear there it's making it too mechanical. What about a 1/16 note with a heavier swing? Yeah, again, it's affecting the way we're strumming it, but it's getting on the grid a bit better. So it's probably going to be better for our timing. And don't worry, we can come back and change these at any time. I just wanted to show you that if you are off the grid with your scratch tracks, don't worry too much. You can come in here to quantization and add that to fix them up a little bit, at least in the meantime. Let's move on to our next track. So we're already up to tip number 8 here, and this is to add a bass track. I love having a bass track in early in songs that are going to use a bass. So I'm going to tap the plus button here. We're going to scroll on across until we find the bass. We just missed it. There it is. We can tap more sounds, and let's grab the Liverpool bass, one of my favorite bass sounds in here and now. We can use the exact same interface here as we did for the guitar, but we can use it with a bass guitar. But I'm going to show you another way that we can play the bass, which you may not know about, and that is using the keyboard to control our guitar instrument. So let's show you that now. So let's delete out that bass. We'll tap it, we'll delete it. We'll hit the plus button down the bottom here, but this time we're going to go to our keyboard instrument and tap on the more sounds in the bottom right here. We're going to go to the bottom of this list here and tap on other over here on the left. And what you'll notice now is we've got all of these instruments that we can control using our keyboard. So let's go to our Liverpool bass, and now we can actually use the keyboard to actually play in our bass part. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. And if you've got a MIDI keyboard controller, even better. You can plug in via USB using the Lightning to USB 3 adapter, and then you can play these parts, your guitar parts, your keyboard parts, your string parts, using your keyboard, which is really cool. I don't have one connected right now, so I'm just going to use the touch screen and record in my bass line, and then we'll have guitars, drums, and bass, and we're getting close to the shell of our song and our idea coming together here in GarageBand. Right, so once again, did take us a couple of takes, but we got there in the end. So now you can see that it's starting to come together. Again, if we just want to tidy that up a little bit, we can tap in the top left, we can tap into our track settings and do a little quantization here. We can put that same, swing quantization that we did on the others, and just put some light 1/16 swing on here to make sure it's going to match up with our other instruments there. So now we've got guitar, drums, bass. We are ready to apply some more instruments here. And in this case, tip number 9 is going to be vocals. So what we're going to do is, again, tap on the plus button in the bottom left here. We're going to scroll on across until we find the audio recorder. Now we're going to tap in the bottom right here on more sounds. I'm going to go vocals, and I'll use the punchy presence vocal. I like to use this for my scratch vocals just because it has a little bit of compression on there, a little bit of ambience and delay that we can add in here, and we can get ourselves sounding good. Now, what I'll do is when we're recording vocals, I'm just using the built-in microphone. Here on the iPad, we can turn up and down the input gain, and I haven't got the monitoring on, but you can see there that if we put it up, it's going to be very loud coming through, and we can put it down. Now, unfortunately, on some iPhones and even some iPads, you don't have that input gain. If you don't, and you're using the built-in mic, you'll just have to get a bit further away to make sure you're not getting a loud sound. Of course, the best thing to do is to use a USB microphone, a lightning-based microphone, or even an audio interface, and there's a video linked up the top there and in the description all about how to do that. What I'll do now, though, is I'll turn this microphone down and I'll hit the monitor button here, and you'll be able to hear what it sounds like coming through the built-in mic here on the iPad. So here is the sound, and you can hear there's a lot of background noise because it's using my built-in microphone and it's sitting on the actual desk here right next to my computer. So I can turn that down a little bit, and it's going to be better for us to record this. So what I'll do now is I'm going to hit record and record in some vocals here as my scratch vocal track. Da, 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 Okay, so yes, there is background noise there. This is not an ideal situation. What I would generally suggest you do is lift your iPhone or iPad off of the desk, put it in a better location so that you're actually going to reduce the amount of noise. Having it in a studio next to a computer surrounded by fans and all sorts of other things, not the greatest place. But this is more a demo to show you how, and then you can actually check out the other videos in the description all about the best way to get the best quality sound. But there you can see we've got our vocals recorded in there. So let's come back here to our track view. We can solo these out. I'll turn them down because they're going to be a bit scary. And we can hit play. Bringing our other instruments. And there you go. Just with those 4 tracks and just with a few minutes of preparation and recording and things here, you can see how this is starting to come together. And the beauty part is that even though these aren't going to be the final tracks for a lot of these, it's giving us that songwriting experience. So the great thing about using a digital audio workstation, especially one like GarageBand, is you can write your song as you record your scratch version, and then you can come back afterwards and add in other parts to record it. Now, you may have noticed that that was a little bit out of my range. This is a song I'm writing for a female vocal, so it's a little bit higher. But again, if I wanted to change the key, I can go in and I can tap there, and I can change the key signature here. So I could actually drop it down to another key if I was going to sing this. I just have to delete this and re-record the scratch vocals. And of course, when I come in to record my guitars and my bass and my drums over the top of this, I can use a real guitar, real bass, real drums, and record them using a microphone, or I can clean up and re-record these scratch versions using the virtual instruments and use those in my final track. Couple of other things to just show you here, and then we're finishing off with tip 10. So tip 9.5, and I wanted to show you this because I want to do this right now, and that is because we've used these song sections, we can use the section duplicate option to actually duplicate out a section here. So I happen to know that this section B, which is the intro here, we need this to play again after that first chorus. So what I can actually do is come down here and tap duplicate. And what happens is over here on the right, if I tap off of there, it's duplicated out that section, including all of the instruments. So now we've actually got this section here. So if we tap there, we go to all sections and come back out here. Look at that, it has gone back to there. So if we listen to this transition, now that vocal is supposed to go across into here, but it cut off as you heard there. But if we listen to the other instruments here, take a listen to this. Da, da, da. And the other thing I just wanted to clean up here is that whilst these do well with the quantization, because the little lead parts are actually off the beat a little bit, they're sounding quite terrible. So what we can do with that is tap on this guitar, tap duplicate, and give us a second track here. We then just need to click and drag our lead parts down here like this, drag that down and drag that down. And then if we turn this one on, we can actually come back in here to our track settings, our quantization, and turn that off. So that way, when we're playing the lead guitar part, if we just solo that out here, it'll sound more like we played it at the start. Instead of it being cut off and not being right. So there you go. We are now getting very close. Let's finish off here with the final tip, all about getting a bit of a static mix so that we can continue working on this project. So tip 10 is all about mixing, and because we've changed around the volumes here, so we turned the drums up when we were recording them, we turned the bass up when we were recording that, and we've done nothing with the vocals, what I'm going to do now is play a little bit of this track and just get the static mix starting to happen so we can work out where these different instruments are going to sit here in the mix. So let's turn that one like that, just get it about where we want it to be and hit play, and you'll see the sort of things that I'm going to do here as we go along. So there you go. The main thing I was doing there is just balancing out these volumes so that each instrument was at about the right volume. So now that I'm listening back and I'm starting to build out the rest of this song, you can actually see where that's going. And the other thing I did was here in the mixer, I added in a little echo and reverb just to start making it sound more like what it's going to sound in the final mix when we finally get to that phase. So there we go. That's where we're at. That's my 10 tips for getting started. And as you can see, with just those 10 tips, you can get yourself in a pretty good position for finishing off a song. And stay subscribed, or subscribe to the channel if you're not already, because I will be back to work more on this song and share even more tips about recording, mixing, and releasing your music using GarageBand.